Hey everybody, Mike B back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about what the actual purpose of a military soldier or Marine wearing camouflage is. A lot of people that are new to the whole surplus thing and just camouflage in general think it's made to make you invisible, and it's absolutely not supposed to do that. So basically in the First World War is the kind of first time that modern military started experimenting with camouflage. Marksmen, they weren't called snipers at that time, on all sides decided to start making, ghillie suits. They'd take like a sheet or some kind of cloth and paint it to match the surroundings. There are still original examples of that. Fast forward to World War II, and you've actually got like uniforms that were issued to different groups, like the Waffen-SS very famously used camouflage. And since they were using camouflage in the European theater, the Army, the U.S. Army specifically, and most of the rest of the Western allies chose to not use camouflage uniforms, so there wouldn't be any confusion as to who was who. But in the South Pacific, the Marines were actually the first U.S. personnel to actually largely adopt a camouflage utility uniform. This is the modern day equivalent of what, this is what the Marines wear today. So basically from Korea, there was mainly olive drab. Vietnam, there was olive drab. And at the end of Vietnam, you start seeing Marines again being issued the ERDL pattern, which is like the pre-woodland. It's actually a better version in my opinion. And then after that, the Army and the Air Force and the Navy were all being issued M81 woodland camouflage, the BDUs. All 5 branches wore the same uniform. They just had different name tapes and stuff, which was pretty interesting. And militaries around the world started experimenting with camouflage. And today, most industrialized nations who have a military are going to be utilizing a camouflage uniform. Now, why is that? Why don't they just stick with a solid color? Like some countries, like Israel and Austria, still use a solid color, but most other countries use a camouflage pattern. So why is it? Does it make you invisible? Is there any advantage to it? Really, the only thing that camouflage does that's actually it makes it worth wearing is it gives somebody who's wearing it an extra second or two of somebody that's not necessarily looking for them, just kind of scanning. It gives them, if they're sitting still, just that extra second of, oh, they might go over me, and then I have an advantage for an extra second or two to do whatever I need to do, either take the target out, keep sitting still, or whatnot, versus a solid color that doesn't really, if you look out in nature, there's a bunch of little tiny spots of random colors, right? And a solid color, while effective and good in certain environments, for the most part, camouflage, something like this, some pattern that's going to be a bunch of little spots out in the middle of nature, are going to make you more concealed, so that you do have that extra advantage. If somebody's even looking for you, you could possibly sit still and they might look over you, versus a solid color going, oh, that's a big solid blob of olive drab or coyote brown or whatever. So I might want to pay attention to that. It just allows you to skip over, or to be skipped over a little bit, but it does not make you invisible by any means. When you move, you're still going to be very visible when you're moving. So basically, yeah, it's just what I said. It's to give you a little bit of an advantage and possibly give you an extra second or two when you really need it to act or not act or do whatever you need to do. Whereas wearing a solid color or non-camouflage, like uniforms, like a dress uniform in World War I, they found that out. It's going to make you very visible, and again, not to make you totally invisible. That's not what camouflage does. Like, oh, I can't see you, I can only see your face. No, you can see it. It's just kind of made to give you that extra little edge. Now, different environments are going to require different camouflage patterns and color schemes and combinations to work better in a certain environment. That's why whenever I get the question, what's the best camouflage pattern? It's like saying, what's the best car? What's the best gun? You got to be very specific. Where are you using it? What time of year is it? How are you using it? How far away are you going to be, and all that stuff. That's why there's so many different patterns, and I love having a bunch of different patterns. Like Marpat works all right. It's a little bit brown, but in areas where there's more brown dominant, like in foliage and stuff, is dead foliage, and a little bit more brown dominant areas than northern Wisconsin, it works really well. Cadpat, right, the one that this was designed off of, is a lot more green, designed for the forests of Canada, and it actually works really well up here in Wisconsin. But it's not a cure-all. Like you go down south where it's more brown, obviously Marpat's going to work better because of the color scheme, and that's what it was designed for, is the U.S., not anywhere else. And so that kind of whole thing with multicam and UCP, trying to find this all-encompassing pattern that's going to work everywhere, it's really not going to. So you're going to have to experiment around with that stuff. And the actual purpose is, again, not to make you totally invisible. There are some camouflage patterns that work really well in certain areas and can almost make you invisible if you sit still, but that's still not the overall goal of it. So tried something a little bit different on the channel this morning. So if you got any questions or anything on camouflage patterns and why they exist, let me know. Hopefully it's pretty self-explanatory, and hopefully you already knew all this stuff. This is just for people who may not be experienced with this, or maybe new to the whole like surplus and kind of camouflage wearing if you're doing paintball and stuff like that, just to kind of get some information. So thanks for watching. Consider supporting the channel. There's multiple ways to do that in the description. And consider checking me out on BitChute as well. I'll be uploading this video on there. So I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next video.